Not all of us are lucky enough to have a great big garden that can house a fully fledged fruit orchard. These are orange trees and they'll grow up to 8 metres high and 6 to 8 metres wide. But even if you've only got a small courtyard garden or a patio, there are plenty of fruit trees that can be easily grown in pots. Here's some citrus growing in containers. They're grown specifically for courtyards or for patios, and they'll only reach about 2 metres high. And that means that when it comes to picking or looking and checking that there's no pests and diseases, you don't have to get up on a ladder. I must say that citrus are my favourite in pots because they are evergreen. You're not left with a tree that has no leaves in winter. And when they're in fruit, they just look fabulous. All the dwarfed varieties of citrus will be grafted, and here's the grafting point that you should look out for. That's really important. That's a lovely strong stem there, and you don't see any little buds or shoots coming out below the graft. If you do, you would just rub them off or snip them off as soon as you can. This is a grapefruit. This one is a marsh, virtually seedless. These ones will only grow about 4 metres and they'd be terrific in a large pot. Another good dwarfed variety is a Lisbon lemon, and everyone has a Lisbon because that's the true lemon that gives you that fish and chippy sort of taste. This is the Kumquat Nagami, and it's got a little teardrop-shaped fruit. And the thing about a kumquat is that it can take a cold climate. And this is really good because this one is a hybrid between a lime and a kumquat. It's called a limequat, and the lime gives the wonderful flavour, and the kumquat element gives it its cold tolerance. And don't forget about Aussie natives for pots, because these are edible. They're the native finger limes. They are very tough because they come from inland Australia originally. And now there's loads of different varieties. They are a little bit thorny, but they're terrific. They'll suit a pot ideally, grow to about maybe even 5 metres high, but you can keep them pruned. Here's one that people always ask about. Can you grow an avocado in a container? Yes, you can, especially if you look for a variety called wurtz. And wurtz is a good subtropical plant, but it will also take a little bit of the southern climate's cold. It'll grow to be 3 to 4 metres high, but an avocado is a terrific one in a very large pot. Something like a wine barrel would be fantastic. You have to leave them for about 4 years till you will get fruit, but plenty of fertilizer and plenty of sun and you will be eating the most magnificent fruits. Potting a plant is really quite easy, but there are a few simple things that will really help your plant along. Your pots always have to have a hole in the bottom. That's really important for drainage. And there is a myth that you should put broken crock or bits of gravel down the bottom to cover that hole. With the quality potting mixes that we have these days, there is no need to do that. In fact, it raises the water level of the plant, and so you're going to get the plant roots sitting in saturated soil. So please don't put anything down in there. Use good quality potting mix. In fact, premium is the best. It's got everything that you could ever want. The size of the pot is really important. If you put it into a bigger one straight away, there's too much air space in there, and very often the potting mix can become oversaturated while the plant is not using it. Just measure it to make sure that the plant's going to sit nicely in this pot. There we have it. Those roots are pretty good. Look at that. Beautiful. If you just tease them out just a little bit so they're hanging down. Okay, and then boom. Nestle the plant in and make sure that it's at the same level as it was in the pot, so that it's not higher or very much lower than the lip of the new pot. And then just backfill all the way round. Fill it up nicely right up to the top of the pot and then press down. 1, 2, 3. And that just gets rid of most of the air holes. The big thing is not to cover up the graft point, of course, but make sure that the potting mix is really firm. And then we're going to add just some gravel. So just a 3 handfuls of the mulch should do, and that will stop a lot of evaporation from the soil and just reflect a little bit of hot summer sun. And now it's time to give it its first and important watering. You must water it in really well on the first water, and then after that, depending where the plant is put, you must water at least once, if not twice, over summer every week. As for fertiliser, just a small amount of chook pellets that are mixed with blood and bone and perhaps some seaweed, and just put that on twice a year, once in early spring and once in early autumn. And that will mean that the plant just grows along very nicely. Don't need to over-fertilise. And if you do all those helpful tricks, you will find that your citrus will be absolutely beautiful, nothing better. And life is worth living with a lemon.